Hello there, everyone, and I think you'll be able to tell by the title to the podcast. This isn't our usual football talk where we usually talk about football for a couple of hours or whatever, and just have a laugh about. Usually Watford, I think it's usually Watford and Everton. I think we get passionate about everything else, but we just laugh about Watford and Everton mostly. But today is a bit different, I think, for people who have never listened to the podcast before, because they are fans of Line of Duty. Welcome. This is normally a football podcast, but we're also going to dedicate shows now. Before we start, I think there's a few things we'd like to clarify. I think from now on that there will be no more football podcasts on YouTube. Am I right, Aaron?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, so from any football podcast we will do from now on will be on Spotify. Details about that I'll announce on Twitter in the coming weeks, but the rest of the stuff, which definitely includes Line of Duty, will be on YouTube. We're joined by a debutant to the podcast, and that's Sam, also a Watford fan. Yeah, we've just been me and Aaron the last couple of times. So how are you doing?
No
Sam?
worries, mate. Yeah, I'm all good. I'm happy with what's going on with Watford at the moment as well. So that's all good. And as I say, I'm very excited for this new season of Line of Duty as well.
Yeah. Before we talk about the show, when did you guys start watching the show? I mean, I know when Aaron did, but when did you get into it?
I was just after season 5 ended. Everyone was like, "Oh my god, that is unreal!" So I watched all 5 seasons then after the end of season 5. So what, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now, and I've watched it I think 3 times over since. I watched it quite recently in the last month or so just to refresh myself, as I'm sure a lot of people are doing as well. So yeah, I love the program. I think it's one of the best I think that British TV's kind of produced.
Yeah, I didn't get into it at all until a few months ago when you told me about it, and I watched it, and it's easily one of the best things I've ever watched.
Yeah, it's
pretty good. It started for me just scrolling through Netflix, and it was just lockdown had just come in and what have you, and I've always been against watching TV shows because I've normally never got the sort of the ability to see it through. But with this just took over my life for a few weeks, and I watched series 1 to series 5, and I was gobsmacked. And I've watched it again recently, and I've refreshed myself on a few things. But yeah, I think it's a fantastic TV show, fantastic actors. I think Martin Compston, Adrian Dunbar, and Vicky McClure, they just steal the show every single time. And yeah, the acting, the writing from Jed McCurry, I think it's genuinely the best thing I've ever seen. So I'm really looking forward to talking about this show.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's just that, like, I think everything, like, in terms of its production, like, I think of at the end of every episode and you have the music at the end of it, and it's just like a proper tense build up, and then the episode just ends and it's like you have to watch the next one. And I feel like that's why I got through it so quickly, because it's just like at the end of every episode you're like, I have to watch the next one to kind of find out what happens. So it's just a shame we have to wait 2 years to see what happens next. And I've heard rumors as well that it's not going to be the last series, so we might not we might not find out everything this series.
No.
You speak about the music. You know how at the end of an episode something happens, and you have the build up of the beat, and they go straight into the music with the credits, and it's like, hey, did that just happen?
Yeah, exactly. It's like a whole week you're just sat there like, oh my god, what did I just watch?
Well, it's a whole about 10 minutes of me and Aaron for our viewership so far, because we just went straight into the next one.
Yeah, nice. It's class. I love it.
And it's properly sort of, it takes you on an emotional ride, because there's no adverts, there's no breaks. You're just glued to a screen watching something for an hour, and some episodes an hour and a half. So it's certainly enthralling. How are we feeling about talking about this? Is anyone going to kick me off with anything?
I'm so excited. I've been like waiting for like 2 years for this now. It's like, it's properly like, because the last season 5 ends on like a proper cliffhanger. And then like we've had basically 2 years to create like as many theories as possible. now we're actually going to find out. So I'm so excited.
Okay, so we'll start off with the trailer. Interesting. I've got a few things about the trailer, but the first thing I want to mention is the fact that the shots was so sort of sharpish. You can miss so much if you don't pay attention. There's police cars going into rivers. There's ambushes. There's a lot to get through in this trailer. It's a minute long, but it feels like about 87 million things are shown in this minute. So it starts off with, get the murder of Gail Vella. She's obviously a journalist who has been killed by what we think is she's been hunting down sort of links between organised crime and corrupt police officers. And the sort of hint we got so far is that by either a member of the OCG or a police officer maybe have killed Vella for her silence. So that's the kind of thing we've got with that. Obviously, Joanna Davidson is in it, the new sort of to be investigated officer. So we've had Tony Gates, we've had Lindsay Denton, Danny Walden for an episode. I feel like he was in it for longer than that, but he was only in it for an episode in series 3. Rose Huntley by Andy Newton and Stephen Graham's John Corbett, am I right?
Yeah, John Corbett.
Yeah, I don't know. I just always call him Stephen Graham. What is that? His name in the show was John Corbett. This time we've got Joanna Davidson, played by Kelly MacDonald. She was in Trainspotting and No Country for Old Men, if that rings a bell. And she's getting investigated. I think there's lots of things sort of hidden in the trailer. What were your thoughts on the trailer?
Yeah, I think there was definitely a lot that there's a lot to get through. Some of the clips that are blink and you'll miss a moment, just stuff like the ambush, the car going into the river. I believe Gail Vella she would have been killed by what we presume is somebody that she's reporting on something to do with the police, and she's been killed by somebody inside the police to stop her from going any further with it. I believe she's also reporting on the boys I've seen in series 3, obviously as Owen kind of brought my attention to a few days ago, that the Fairbrant trial was briefly included in the trailer. So I wonder if they'll link back to that in any way, and I'm curious to see how they actually help bring that up in the new series.
Yeah, from what we've heard, she's been investigating Patrick Fairbank, who was the old creepy guy in series 3 who was he got done for I think he got charged in the end with malfeasance in a public office and obviously relations with a child, which is completely mind blowing, because when we first met Fairbank, he was sort of in a meeting with Hastings, wasn't he? They're both Masons, so maybe that was to throw us off of Ted. I think the thing with Ted is that he's been investigated already. I would hate to see that drag on with Ted. I think for me, Ted. If anyone's good, I want it to be Ted. He's the regs guy, isn't he?
Yeah, my problem with Ted though is that I still felt that even though they investigated him and somehow cleared him, I just thought there was still so much not explained, like why he got rid of his laptop.
We'll get into all that as we go on with. So the trailer I've got up here, it starts off with Kate Fleming holding a gun up at someone we can't see, then loads of police cars, then Joanna Davidson crying, then Steve looking knackered on the floor, which is presumably his back. I think I'll get onto the Easter egg front in a minute. But so then we see police cars, then we see a magazine which says, "Speaking truth to power, Gail Vella receives a commendation for journalism." So she's obviously a really high up journalist who was investigating police corruption. And then we see Ted Hastings saying, so Gail Vella's murder has been, botched. Basically, it's our job to see if police corruption has had any involvement. And then in that scene, we see new AC-12 officer Chloe Bishop. So I believe Monique left as she was killed, right? Weren't she? So is this Monique's replacement?
Also, I don't recall her being replaced. I mean, she was killed in series 5, wasn't she? I don't recall her being replaced.
She was killed in series 5 by the OCG because she was doing an undercover op after she got kicked out of AC12. So she wanted to. She sent some files to Hilton. So then she would have been kicked out, and then she did an undercover op to sort of redeem herself, and then she got killed. But I don't think she was ever replaced. I think Chloe could be a replacement.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, so we see Chloe Bishop next to Steve Arnott, who's in the AC12, but there's something about Steve Arnott in this series that doesn't sit right with me as we talk later. And then it progresses. It says Gail Vella's. It shows a picture of Gail Vella. She was. Life was cut short. Joanna Davidson says, and whoever did it has got away with it. And then the thing with me in this trailer, there's a lot of scenes with Kate and Joanna Davidson. Could that be something in terms of, is Kate on an undercover op again? I think she is.
Yeah, I think so. But didn't she, when she got her promotion, I thought she didn't have to do the undercover stuff anymore. I'm not sure though.
Well, my problem is this isn't very this doesn't. The AC12 don't cover the length and breadth of the English police force, right? They're only in their sort of area. How has she not been caught a million times by the? How did he not know she's an undercover officer by this point? She's been undercover for years.
Very good.
She's very good, except Lindsay Denton. She was onto her like a flash. She was terrible in Lindsay Denton had her. And then we basically see police cars, Steve Arnott walking around the place, crime scenes. There's, loads of shootings. Then we see the Fairbank trial getting shown on a Operation Lighthouse. So could that be getting brought up? I don't know. I think the Sandsview Boy Home might get revisited this series. And then there's loads of scenes with Joanna. And then the police and crime commissioner, who was in cahoots a lot with Jill Bigelow and Andrea Wise last series of Ryan Simwandry, is statements at the end of series 5 saying there is no police corruption in this series. Operation Pear Trees concluded. That gets shown up again. And then Ted, with his a barefaced liar, has been promoted to our highest office. Whether that's linked to Rohan is, I don't think it is, but I think Jed could just be throwing us with some, who could this be? This barefaced liar promoted to our highest office. Could this be linked to the last remaining corrupt officer? If there is one, there's definitely more than.
I think with Rohan there is he didn't, to my memory, he didn't get too much focus in the previous series, so it might be something.
No, it was mostly Jill, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think with Rohan, it might just be something to kind of speculate about. Will he get more focus in the new series? Could he Ben potentially? I think it's just something to give fans to think about.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of scenes in this series with Steve in a uniform which looks a lot like his old counter-terror uniform from the early series, but more on that later. Steve, this series, it's bugging me. So we just continue seeing that, and then we see an officer say you can't trust a word she says, or you underestimating her. And that officer was part of Ros Huntley's team in series 4. She was involved in the investigation to do you remember Michael Farmer and
the forensic guy,
yeah. So she was interviewing the girls who were getting abducted and that. So she was there. So maybe some of the series 4 team of Ros Huntley's are coming back potentially. But then it goes on, and there's the ambush of the raid. Ted looking petrified. More scenes of Joanna and Kate. Steve running away. It's just, and then we get on to cost lives, and then which then says, Ted, when did we stop caring about honesty and integrity? And then the real sort of takeaway from this trailer is Chloe Bishop saying to Steve, do you still think there's a fourth man out there? And he goes, man or woman, and then it goes straight to Kate. So the question is, in the same way as Steve has been thrown accusations at in previous series and Ted in the last series, is this Kate's turn?
I think so. Yeah. I don't think it will be Kate, who is kind of the missing H. I have to. I've always had my suspicions about her because you kind of have these people who are. You have like these officers who are so straight that they have to kind of be bent, if you know what I mean. And I don't know. I've just always felt that she's kind of too good not to have something wrong with her, and we know that she's kind of got this private life, which is kind of a bit dismantled.
Very private.
Yeah, so it's a very private life, and she fell out with her husband and didn't get to see her son. I think it might have been series 2 or 3. She was living out of her car for half of the series.
Oh, series 2. What do they pay these police officers? She was sleeping in a car, and Lindsay Denton was eating, I don't know, mayonnaise off a spoon for a tea because she had no money.
Yeah.
What did he pay these police officers? Under the foot.
Yeah, so bad. No, I don't think it will be her, but I do think it's going to be her turn to kind of be investigated. So that'll be really interesting. But yeah, I can't imagine that she actually will be kind of the missing link.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be. I do think it's going to be a little more emphasis on Kate this series. You say how we don't really know too much about her background, her home life. I think that'll be discovered, because in the previous series you had in series 5, it was about Ted and how he fell out with his wife and how he was living in that hotel. I think it was. You've had Steve. We've met his girlfriend, and we found out about his back problem at home and stuff. So I think we'll get a little more emphasis on Kate. I also think, considering we've had Stephen and Ted be looked into, that was kind of the main plot point of being towards the end of the series. I think that will be again Kate's turn here. I've also written down some stuff that I listened to the Shrine of Duty podcast a few days ago.
Yeah, big shout out to them.
Yeah. So they go more in depth in there, but I just written down some stuff. So there was dodgy behaviour with Lindsay Denton in series 2. Kate and Dot, they exchanged some strange looks on giving evidence relating to Stanley Walden's death. Dot called her a brilliant lie at one point. She turned against Steve. She was saved by Dot. And I think most importantly, there were 2 versions of the dying declaration. One of which wasn't revealed until series 5, where they found out about the Morse code. And there was also there's also incidents throughout the series and stuff like what happened with Dot in series 3. Incidents like that have led to her promotion, so I think that is all kind of leading to Kate being a suspect. I initially thought with Dot saving Kate that could maybe be that they were in on something, they were planning something, that's why Dot wanted to save Kate. But I watched the series 2 finale the other day, and Dot hesitated when she was run over by if you remember, she was run over by Laurie. Car, and instead of going straight to the car to get out of there, Dot actually hesitated when watching Kate be on the floor, and they also exchanged a conversation at the same moment that I thought could have potentially seeded some form of relationship. It was kind of jokey, but Dot said to Kate, now I know why we haven't slept together, and she replied with, "It's not like I didn't want to." So I thought that kind of seeded some form of relationship that they could have had, and that could have played into why Dot decided to save Kate.
Maybe. Before we go into these theories, I've got to, if there's anything that my Wednesday night was spared, it was going through this Easter egg hunt trail. Now I've sent you where, Aaron, but do you know what I'm talking about at all here, Sam?
No, I did have a look last night. I had no idea about it. I did have a look though.
Did you complete it?
Huh? No, I didn't complete it. I didn't complete it. Nah, you can explain it to me, yeah.
I think I was one of about 4 people to do this, because trust me, I've not seen many people do this.
I only did it with the Twitter thread you sent me.
Yeah, well, he was the only other guy I saw who done it. So we get to this is, I wrote down the steps of how you do it, and so this is basically on the trailer. On the Gail Vellum magazine, there's a QR code. You scan it, and then it comes up with this letter from, and fuels my suspicions even more, from the now Chief Constable Philip Osborne, who was the right dodgy-looking fella in Series 1, who was Steve's old boss in Counter-Terrorism. He's now Chief Constable. He sent a letter to DCC Andrea Wise, who presumably is his understudy. And then he's basically saying we need to have a much closer look at AC-12. We need to look at Hastings. He just commits the Crusades. He's oblivious of the politics of the situation, which creates problems for me and you because policing is politics. That's an interesting line, I thought. And then what you do then is click. The question is what to do next. You click next, and then it sends you to this prescription directed to Steve Arnott, who basically is when he fell over in series 4. Well, he didn't fall over. He got pushed down about 12 flights of stairs. So I was quite underestimating that. There's a prescription with tablets saying can cause addiction. Is that some foreshadowing? I think we might see Steve getting hooked on these painkillers.
Yeah, no, perhaps. We did see kind of, I think in the outro to season 5, where you kind of see like all the characters end up at the end of the series. We see him taking kind of a sip of his medicine, didn't we? His tablets. So I think it's definitely something to keep an eye out on, because it looks like something that is going to come back and trouble him. I think it was the start of season 5 when they arrested someone and he hurt his back after getting them down on the floor. I can't remember who it was.
I can't. It was that bloke who ran away.
It was out of yeah.
It was Manit's.
Yeah, it was her cousin.
Cousin or something. Yeah, I forgot his name now.
Yeah.
But he ran away. Yeah.
Yeah, and he got down, arrested him, and hurt his back. So I assume it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Whether it's addiction or something else, I assume it'll be something like that.
Yeah, and so on the bottom of this is Morse code. So you've got to put this in a Morse code translator, which you'll then get a Bitly link from, which will send you to the full clip of Rowan Sinwandri's press statements next to Andrea Wise. And in this, Gail Vella's reporting in the background. So she's basically criticising Sinwandri, and yeah, basically it stokes the fire of her investigation into this, them closing down the allegations of police corruption. She's onto it from this moment. I don't know, within the original series she was there. I may have missed that, but she was definitely in it on the rewatch. Then in the description, there's a link which sends you onto a Google Street View map of the junction of Green Lane and 4th Avenue in Birmingham. No idea what this could be a reference to. I remember there was a 4th Street station in series 2 with Lindsay Denton. That's where she worked. So potentially there could be some reference to that. Birmingham is where they originally filmed the series in series 1. They could have done in series 2, I'm not sure, but they definitely used to film in Birmingham. I don't know what kinds of relevance this has. But anyway, you then go back onto the previous YouTube video, and then there's a physics equation, which then if you put with another link, you get another Bitly link, and then you then go to this phone message, which then you basically have got to, it basically says a Bitly link. This goes right to the top. And remember, if you don't make everything add up, coppers get a special reception behind bars. Basically, this is a clue to, there's the bar at the top of the phone, you've got to add all the numbers together. Plus, then when you get that number, you need to put it in between the Bitly link, and then you've got another Bitly link, which then sends you on to a video of Chloe Bishop and Steve Arnott saying, is there a 4th man out there? And he goes, man or woman. And then there's another code that you've got to put together, which then it comes up on the middle of the screen, and then there's something on the poster note, put them together. And then you get a lovely voice memo from Ted Hastings and a clip from the series where Steve Arnott says to Nicola Rogerson, who works in major violent crime, I've reached the end of the line in anti-corruption. Have you basically got anywhere in your place? And then we see an undercover operation, an operation with involving Davidson and Fleming. So the kind of the basic idea of this is Kate's undercover again. But I wonder, is Steve undercover this series because he's gone to major violent crime to join up with them? Could he just be going undercover? There's so much in this.
I think I think you mentioned earlier that Steve was in the trailer was wearing what looked like his counter-terrorism uniform, and like you said in that clip that he had reached the end of the line for AC-12. So I wonder maybe he goes back there potentially. Also, you've got the fact that Philip Osborne's returned, so maybe potentially he's gone back there.
This is it, because Osborne's back, and this stokes my whole theory of this series coming round in a full circle of it will end up being that Phil Osborne is the top dog of corruption. Yeah. I've been on this theory for a while, but shall we do overall theories of how we see the series going, or shall we just focus on Kate, Steve, and Ted for now?
Well, Kate kind of links with a bunch of theories, I think. So
yeah. Shall we start off with Kate? There's a lot of school of thought that Kate is H, or one of the H's, or a corrupt officer. Where do you both stand on that?
It's I said earlier, it's a really difficult one. I don't think so, because I just couldn't see it. I feel like there is something dodgy there. As we've mentioned, there've been some stuff which are really questionable from her. Like why the thing that I've always thought about is why Dot took the bullet from her, and perhaps perhaps some stuff did go on between her and Dot that we don't know about. But yeah, it wouldn't shock me. But I don't think it is her.
No, she makes it so difficult for me, to be honest, because she just acts so dodgy. Especially, I've been watching series 2 again today and yesterday, and she is so dodgy in this series. It's unbelievable. The business with Aaron Akers never got cleared up. Why she won Kate on the night of the ambush. There's just so much nonsense with her in series 2. She was sleeping with Richard Akers, wasn't she? She was. There's so much going on with her in series 2. It's incredible. I'm surprised at the end of series 2 she wasn't revealed as corrupt. I
think you get a lot of twists in this series, and with that in mind, I wouldn't be too surprised if she turns out to be Ben, but I definitely would be surprised if she turns out to be H. I mean, I mentioned earlier about what happened in series 3. I think the stunt she pulled in the finale was genuinely heroic, and I feel like if she turns out to be the main antagonist of this entire series, it would kind of invalidate that. She didn't need to chase Dot like she did, because it could have been just a hit at the moment. But I think she could be Ben. I definitely think she's going to be a suspect, similarly to how Ted and Hastings were both looked into in previous series. But I don't think she's going to be H herself.
No, there's so many holes in the fact that she's H. I just don't get. Like, surely Dot and Kate would have known each other in terms of in the whole sort of hierarchy of corrupt officers. Surely they would have known each other. There was a scene where she was in Dot's flat, and they didn't even flicker to anyone that they were corrupt. They were just talking about Chili and Dot's ex-wife and forensics and everything. It's just a bit odd. I don't think she's corrupt, but I think there's a lot more going on in her private life that's going to come up in this series, similar to Hastings in the last series. I think there's going to be a sort of overlap in terms of how Ted was investigated and how Kate, I think, will be investigated this series. She's gone undercover again, I think. So it'll be interesting to see her. Do you think
talk about Ted quickly as well?
Yeah.
I just feel like I mentioned earlier, first of all, the laptop wasn't fully explained in terms of why he had messages up there, and also why he fully got it disposed, and also half the money as well is still missing. And
he goes back to John Corbett's wife with the fake skull sacker.
Yeah, but still wasn't the other half of it still missing? Can't remember exactly.
No, Arthur was recovered from his flat, and the other there was $100,000 in it.
I watched the finale the other day, and it was revealed that the total for I think a house he was interested in buying or something was 100,000, and he only had 50 grand. And by the end of the series, he had given the money to John Corbett's wife. So I don't recall the other 50 grand actually being found.
It did, because Carmichael. No, it didn't get found, but he gave it to John Corbett's wife. Carmichael discovered half of it, and then Ted gave the other half to John Corbett's wife. So yeah, we know where it is. It's just they don't. So the thing, his laptop really concerns me, because if you would, you're not going to throw your laptop in bubble wrap into a removal shop for just having some indecent videos on there, are you? If you was that way inclined, you'd just throw in the skip.
Yeah, I think that could be. I think that could be looked into again. I also don't think the story will be completely over for Ted. I don't think it will be as dramatic and in depth as it was in series 5, because obviously they did in series 5. But at the end of the series, when it was revealed that Ted was innocent, Carmichael, I think it was, said that she could continue looking into it if she had more time or more information or something. And obviously she was told to close the case, but I feel like she wouldn't completely. I feel like she'd keep it open and continue investigating to an extent.
Do you think we'll see more of Carmichael this series? Is she going to be in it?
She was just like she was just fierce, wasn't she?
Yeah. Do you think she'll be in this?
Well, I'm going to
bring up
returning characters in a bit, so talk about that then. But yeah, I feel like she said there was a mission to prove Hastings was H. It'd be pretty stupid if we didn't see her again. It'd be stupid if we didn't see her again. But yeah, what's the crack with Kate's Ted's laptop, the money, the whole backstory we found out with John's mum, and I don't think he's hate, but I don't think anything ever got fully cleared up in terms of what was actually going on in terms of the here and now, because he was acting so dodgy. Is he an undercover? Was he undercover all series? Maybe is he trying to prove something? I don't know. There's just so much going on with Ted and Kate. Again, there's been so much of her in the series. Denton also called her a brilliant liar in series 2, because she recovered her phone, and she said when she was doing a takedown of the AC-12 officers that Kate's phone history makes for interesting reasons, significant people at significant times. So is that just talking about Akers' call, or is there more that Denton knows but never got a chance to fully reveal because she never fully cleared the name herself? So there's that. I think Steve's an interesting one for me in this series, because it seems to me he's going to go undercover, and I'm not quite sure why.
Yeah,
I don't think he's jibbing off anti-corruption. I think he's going undercover.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't surprise me.
Why I don't
feel like I perhaps there is kind of a link there though between his kind of like back problems and him quitting anti-corruption. Perhaps also the fact we're seeing the his old boss coming back in from counter-terrorism.
Yeah, don't trust him.
Perhaps that kind of all builds into Steve just saying like, "Fuck this." Oh, sorry, I'm just not in the mood for this, and just find something else to do in life. But yeah, no, it could definitely be something undercover, because I think they said back to him like, we're always looking for good guys, and it's kind of that perception of him being a good guy, and perhaps kind of taking a kind of a different view to that will be really interesting.
Yeah, so for me, I think there's going to be a lot more focus on Steve this series doing different, because in the past he's always been sort of like looked at in terms of he was investigating Denton and Danny Waldron and Ros Hundley. He was going after them personally, and they knew he was their sort of nemesis, while Kate was the one always going undercover. I wonder if Steve could just be going undercover more this season. I don't think we'll find out about it until later on in the series.
I wonder if he could maybe go undercover with to maybe investigate Osborne, considering everyone thinks he's very corrupt.
I definitely. Well, he is corrupt because he asked Steve to lie.
But I mean, like, that for we know all that's happened, he told his team to lie in court. I think he's obviously been promoted to chief superintendent, isn't it?
Yeah, no, he's chief constable.
Codsworth, yeah. So he's high
He's
up
the highest.
He's high up in the ranks. He has done some bad stuff in the past. I think we might see Steve go undercover again, especially if there's obviously a lot of rumors going around of whether or not Osborn's H. Maybe that could be towards the end of the series, and they're starting to think he's H. Maybe that's why Steve goes undercover.
Yeah, I definitely think there's going to be. I think it's going to appear to us that Steve's wanting to leave, but I think it's going to come around at some point that he's just undercover and he's doing this big operation or somewhat. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. Do we have any school of thought that Steve could be corrupt? I really struggle to see it.
No, I've never really. He's never struck me as somebody that's corrupt. I think obviously especially compared to Ted when he was the main suspect. I mean, I think Steve was mainly being framed being framed by Doc for the murder of Lindsay Denton. He wasn't being accused of being H. So that's
he was accused of being the caddy. Remember?
Yeah, that's true. But I think it mainly
because he had a London accent.
Yeah, it mainly came from Lindsay being murdered. So I feel like, and obviously he was detained, and we got to see him. I think to my memory, we got to see him in custody a lot more than Ted was, because Ted was being questioned most of the time, because obviously the series 2 finale was centered a lot more around Doc towards the end. So I don't think Steve's going to be corrupt. I definitely don't think he's H. And I think it's unlikely he's going to be looked into compared to the others. But I think there'll be more emphasis on his back problem and where that comes into it.
Completely agree. I trust Steve. So if there's any dodgy dealings with Steve, I'll just go off the rails for a week. So that kind of thing. Now the main characters out the way. Do you have any theories around the H and the corrupt officers? Do you think it's going to be before there is a H? Do you think Doc was having everyone on? Do you think H maybe?
I've got
your thoughts on H?
I've got one theory that I've seen, and that is that H doesn't exist. Doc was dying. He was blinking, tapping his fingers. That could have just been a response to his body responding to death, or he just needed to blink maybe. There was no guarantees that Doc was even telling the truth. He was the caddy. He was lying a lot. So I don't think that this will be pursued. I do think there is an H, but I think that might be something to think about. Yeah.
The thing with me and Doc Dying Declaration, I think we didn't see half of it. Half of it was to convict Patrick Fairbank. He was basically saying he was no nonce. And then the other half was basically, and then Kate says, who's top dog, Doc? And he blinks on H, and then there's some Morse code that says there's 4 of them. I just find that so hard to believe. The man's dying, for God's sake. It's his last reflexes. He's doing anything. So I find that difficult to believe. And there's way more than 4 corrupt officers. Way more.
Yeah, my kind of theory, not H, but I remember you both liked this on Twitter, and I said that I still think Sam, as Steve's ex-girlfriend, I feel like there could be something dodgy there. I don't know why. I just get that feeling.
Yeah, the coldest look on earth when she looks at Steve. She looks cold. She looks a cold woman.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I just felt that there was perhaps something a bit dodgy going on there. That she was the one to discover where Hilton killed himself in that area there, and she didn't really let AC-12 investigate it properly. So I don't know if there's something a bit dodgy there, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, this a theory I've heard today, and I really struggle to believe this because it just doesn't really strike true to me. But H stands for hair, and there's a league of corrupt female officers to remove the male hierarchy of the police force. Now, I struggle to believe this. 1, because Doc's corrupt. 2, because Hilton's corrupt. 3, because I've seen loads of male officers corrupt. And I know Jill was corrupt, but it doesn't sit right with me. That, but I can see something involving women. Maybe there's another woman officer. Maybe Kate. Carmike, could she be maybe corrupt? There's potential. Could she was definitely sort of set on.
Yeah, she was definitely determined to get through that Hastings with H.
So I think this is the bit where we're going to move on and talk about returning characters who could come back this series. We know due to Jed's leak that Ian Buckles is coming back. And remember that guy who stepped in for Boz Huntley and Tony Gates.
I've seen some theories surrounding him that he could be. I can't remember if it was H, specifically H or just correct, but a lot of the talk was that he was kind of so incompetent and so he wasn't good at his job that you wouldn't consider him.
Could that be sort of like a tactic to throw people off?
Maybe, yeah.
I'm so bad at my job, I'm covering everything up. Oh, look how terrible I am. Look, I'm just jokey Ian Buckles. Really, he does look. The fact that he's come in, Hilton put him in for Huntley and Gates. It just doesn't. He doesn't sit right with me. I wonder what's the crap with him. Is there anyone else we think will come up? Philip Osborne's coming back after 5 series, apparently. But he looks dodgy.
Yeah. No, we said about that. I feel like the three I'm personally looking out for is we've got Ryan, kind of the guy now going through the police service. See what role he kind of has to play.
I think he's going to be a new caddy like Doc was. I think he's been put in the force like that. Who was sort of grown up in the OCD and put in the police force.
Yeah. No, just looking back on the trailers, there was a balaclava man who was uncovered. Do you know who that was?
Well, someone froze it, and they've not given anything away as to who it was. We can't quite see who it was. It doesn't look like anyone we recognise, but a lot of people have said it's Kate's son.
Oh, that
would be mental. Because her lad must be grown up by now.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I'm also. I think it'll be interesting to see if Jill Bigelow returns. In terms, I mean, she's now got a new identity, doesn't she? In like a secret.
Oh, God, that woman, the mystery of that woman.
Yeah, I always knew she was dodgy. I remember when I first watched what she came in season 2, didn't she? I think.
3. She came in season 2.
Yeah, and I always knew I was like, this one's dodgy, definitely. And the last one as well was Ros Huntley as well, because I know we mentioned that some of her staff, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if we see another cameo from her at all.
Well, there was an interview. There was a picture when he started filming of Steve in a police station interviewing someone. It looked like he was interviewing a woman. Could he be interviewing Ros? Maybe about some of his team members. He's investigating some of them for being corrupt. Could he be going to Ros asking intel on them? What would they like in that? Could that be where we see Ros? Someone I would love to see come back. Not because I don't know how, but the man, the mystery himself, Nigel Morton. I think that him and that walking stick has to come back. He is as dodgy as they go.
You just love him because he's a Brexit guy called Nigel.
He's Nigel Morton. He is up there with the most iconic people called Nigel. And
I don't think we'll see. I don't think we'll see him again because he's retired now. He's completely. He's clean now. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of others. I think Lee Banks as well is still in prison.
Yeah, he was in the OCG when he apparently Ted told him that Corbett was a rat.
Yeah, so, I don't know who. Yeah, that was the tip off, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was Ted who told him that, which is quite awkward. Who else do we think could come back?
Who was the Oh, my mind's just gone blank. Who was the only woman in the OCG in season 5?
Lisa McQueen. Could we see Lisa
McQueen?
Lucy.
By the end of the series, she was under an alias, teaching teenagers how to avoid crime.
There's no way in the world that's what she's doing. I'm sorry. There's something going on with her because I think she was an undercover officer.
Do you think?
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah, because there was a moment where Ted was getting arrested, and then they came in with guns and he shot Miroslav. he gave a signal to Lisa, which must be like police code, to sort of put it, there's firearms coming. Could there be like he knows something? She was just so dodgy, and plus
Yeah,
he never gave away Ryan as the killer for John Corbett. He said it was Miroslav.
yeah.
So I don't know. I think there's more. The actor who plays Lisa McQueen says she's got unfinished business in Line of Duty. So could we see her come back? Maybe not this series, but the series, a future series, maybe.
I think there could be a link. I mean, you saw Ryan. I've been suspicious of Ryan ever since it was revealed his job interview was with the police. I think specifically he said how he was inspired to become a police officer by Banerjee, who was in series 1. And obviously, there's been quite a few years since series 1, so you presume that Banerjee would have risen up the ranks. I wonder.
So he's quite smart, weren't he?
Yeah, and I agree that Ryan could be the new caddy, because I'm definitely suspicious of him. I think what could happen is it's sort of like a double agent sort of thing, where Ryan will earn the trust of the people above him, specifically Banerjee, and that will link into people like Osborne, and that'll be the clues to how the identity of H is revealed.
Yeah, potentially. Plus, we never saw that Banerjee again after series 1. He was dodgy. They were part of that team with that other DC who went round basically helped Tony Gates laddering. If you remember that. So there was this scene where the pair of them were there was this burglary in this flat in series 1, and he was basically, and then he said, the woman said basically, this area and this burglary has got a high sort of rate of burglary, so you'll get 40 years or something in prison, or you can admit to all these crimes and you'll get off on a suspended sentence. That's basically laddering fines. And so the fact that whole of Gates' team was laddering tells me that no one in Gates' team was clean, and he and that officer was. So potentially could we see something where Banerjee's helped Ryan in the police force, knowing they were both corrupt, and helped him sort of groomed him to become a corrupt officer. I think that's definitely something we could see going forward.
Yeah.
Have we got any other characters we think could come back? Yeah, go on.
I think the main one is going to be Philip Osborne.
Yeah.
The reason I'm mainly looking forward to Osborne's return is because I do think he's H, and I hope he is as well, because he's sort of known for playing bad guys that you love to hate. One of which is who I've seen. He was in an episode of Torchwood, which was obviously Doctor Who spin-off, and he was probably, I think it was one of the better episodes of series 1, and he played one of the antagonists, and his performance was superb. Like, it was creepy. He was everything. He was literally somebody that you love to hate. So if it's revealed he's going to be H, and obviously we watched the first episode of series 1 as well, just to see what he was like. I do definitely hope he's H, and I think he is.
I've said there's the Twitter conversation with us three I've got saved. They're saying that this bloke was definitely a corrupt police officer.
But I think he's corrupt. But I don't think there's enough to see so far that he could be H. I think we've only seen him in terms of the anti-corrupt and counter-terrorism case, and I don't know whether there's anything more that you can kind of add to that, because like with Hastings, there's like proper dodgy stuff to look at. Kate, we don't know much about her, and her relationship with Dot is questionable. I think there's much more realistic options than him.
There is, but I also remember from series 1 that Osborne had a quite close relationship to Hilton, who turned out to be a corrupt police officer. So I think there's more to Osborne. I think he'll definitely take up a role in this series.
I definitely think H is going to be somebody that we already know, whether well or not.
I hope they won't just drop someone in. They won't just drop someone in we've just seen this series. It'll be someone we've known from, I would say, early on, an early series at least.
I think they'll want to make the twist or the reveal as dramatic as possible. So.
Yeah. Is there anything else we'd like to offer?
Not in terms of returning characters, but something I am curious about. In an interview I read online, Adrian Dunbar said We're starting from a place that the audience will probably find a bit shocking. Things and people have been moved around. So the first episode is going to be one of those head wrecks for the audience. And then I think I saw also something shocking happen at the end of episode 4. What do we think that could be?
Nah, the start. Let's take that into 2. The first bit with it's quite shocking for the audience. I think that could be maybe neither of the main 3 characters are in AC-12. So I think Hastings could be getting investigated further or through the money that went missing. I think Steve could have left on an undercover or left to join. I think it was a major violent crime. And I think Kate could be on an undercover. So I think it could be a case where there isn't an AC-12 at the start.
Yeah. No, that's.
I don't think it'll end up like that. I think in the first episode, I think it'll come back. They'll all come back to investigate the murder of Gail Vella, but I do think we'll start off from a place where AC-12 could have been disbanded, or at the very least, waver.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's set 2 years after the events of Series 5, and a lot happened. The fact that Hastings was nearly going revealed as H, I think that would have done a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised if it starts off as AC-12 being disbanded.
And the second bit, repeat that about the end of episode 4.
Something shocking happens at the end of episode 4.
What could that be? That's just
we have to wait 4 weeks for that as well.
4 weeks. Oh. Mark and Compton, I think, announced that. No idea. Could it be something on one of the main characters? Could there be a death? Or it is quite.
Something I wondered about is it kind of links to Kate possibly being either Bent or even being H, but I think mainly just Bent. I suggested that maybe something happens with the criminals and a gun gets fired. Maybe Kate saves one of her colleagues, and that brings kind of sympathy and all that, and maybe then that will kind of stop the trail, if you get what I mean. Like, people won't be as suspicious of Kate when actually she is.
No, it's just so intriguing. It could be anything. It could Doc come back from the dead or something? We don't never know.
Yeah, that's something I've seen as well. That would be truly mental.
That would be in head wreck.
Yeah, I don't think that it's not like sci-fi. I mean, perhaps in like a flashback for someone, but I don't think he'd come back to life.
No, but the one thing that got me with Dot was in the last series that, remember Jane Cafferty, the one whose husband let everyone in the house? She was a corrupt officer and she was involved in the hijack at the start. She said Dot recruited her. Well, how long has she been a corrupt officer then? Because Dot had been dead a while, plus she got sort of blackmailed for having an affair. I believe, I don't know. There's something to me. There's more to her that we never got to see. Plus, I don't think Doc will come back from the dead. I think that's a bit far fetched, but I definitely think there's something to do with Doc's recruitment of corrupt officers that I think will come back in this series. I think more could be explained regarding Doc. I mean, I think you could also think of this. It's what I like to do is to think of this series as the end of the second trilogy. Because the first 3 episodes are all connected, then 4 and 5 are connected, and I think it also links with these suspicions of Osborn. How, if you think of this as like the end of the trilogy, how it all circles back to series 1 and it connects to everything else. Yeah. Either way, it's going to be mental. Are we all looking forward to Sunday night?
Yeah,
definitely.
They haven't really given much away about this series at all. Really, we've had to interpret and guess a lot of the clues. Plus the trailer doesn't give away any facts. It just gives us scenes that could potentially come to some sort of relevance.
Yeah. No, definitely. It's gonna. I don't know. I feel like we're gonna get like a proper like twist this series that's like changes like the way we all viewed like everything in like the first 5. If you know what I mean?
Yeah. I it just leaves a load of questions for me how this series is going to develop as a plot. Something I think will come back just to wrap up is, remember the Sands View Boys Home?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's going to come back in that list. That list is going to play a huge part.
I'm curious because I wanted to see more of that at the end of series 3, and it wasn't really built upon.
No, it wasn't. It was just Fairbank. The two guys, Warden shot, and the counsellor who was dying in a care home. Apart from that, we didn't really get any investigation on the rest of that list, and you'd think there would be, given the fact they had the list, and we never saw any of it.
There were quite a few names left on the list, and I'm hoping that's expanded upon in the next series.
I hope so.
I assume there's going to be more. I still want more. I know he's mentioned a lot. I still think more investigation needs to be done into Tommy Hunter. Like, I know he's dead, but I feel like if you crack Tommy Hunter, then you crack everything pretty much.
He was the sort of the ringleader of organised crime. So we would have had every single contact in the book because they would have all gone to him, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
So every corrupt police officer would have gone through him. He knew Dot. He knew Jane Akers, who was corrupt, who helped kill him, basically. So we'd have had all the sort of controls. Someone else who could come back, and that just reminds me, is, remember Carly Kirk?
Yeah.
The girl who went missing, who Lindsay Denton was investigating. She obviously had connections to Tommy Hunter, so he would have known a lot, considering she was in with Hunter in terms of he was sort of, pimping her out. And
wasn't she being groomed by Hilton? I think it was.
No, Dryden. What it was?
Dryden.
What it was? She was working a function, and then basically, one of the corrupt officers basically got, because Dryden was a bit of an old perv, he got Carly to get off with Dryden. They were basically having a moment in his car. I think the OC Hunter's gang took a picture of Dryden with it and sort of used it as leverage against them. I think that's where it basically was. I don't think there was more to that than that, but certainly I think she could come back because I think she knows a lot, and we didn't see any more of her or any references to her from the end of series 2. So she's someone. Plus, there's something else that I want to bring up that I think in an interview with someone, Jed Mercurio said that in series 6 we will see a character who's been mentioned before but not seen before. If there was anyone of any face, that could be. I've got a couple.
Go on, let's hear yours.
One is Dot's ex-wife who works in forensics. She was when they were talking to Kate. Dot was sort of, speaking to Kate, and he said, "Well, your ex-wife and working. Could the forensic team come into and we see her?" Another one was Jackie Laverty's the series 1, her husband, Andrew Laverty. We heard nothing about this guy other than he's a millionaire who helped Jackie, and she divorced him, and then she suddenly dies through getting embezzled in an OCG. That tells me we didn't find out a lot about him. Maybe he knew she was dodgy. Maybe he knows a lot more because he's rich and he's got influences, but he was never investigated or thought to get in touch with him because they were after Tony Gates. I feel like Andrew Laverty could be someone who we see brought up again because I feel like he knew a lot about Jackie and what she was up to with the OCG. And could he have connections because he's so rich?
Yeah, I'm thinking though. Wait, is Anne-Marie McGillis dead?
Yeah, she was murdered.
Okay. I was going to say it could have been her. Yeah, I forgot if she was alive or dead. But
I can't think of anything that.
Yeah, I think there's probably more there as well between the relationship between Anne-Marie, Corbett, and Hastings. That'll be interesting as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all these points also just link it back right to the start of the series, and that's why I'm looking forward to seeing what they bring.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Watching series 2, so I've mentioned Andrew Laverty, which is a pretty wild guess, but quite interesting. We never saw him. Dot's ex-wife, and another one that I find interesting was, you won't remember him, but Di Barlow, who was in Lindsay Denton's team in Series 2, he was supposed to take the call on the night of the ambush, but Dryden shoved them away to a sort of sort of function. We never saw him or heard of him, or he was never interviewed why he wasn't supposed to be on. We just never saw him. Could he be working for Rose Hundley's old team or working with Joanna Davidson's team, or he just comes up maybe? I don't know. They're the only three names I've remembered rewatching who we had never seen, and they sort of trigger memories for me. But it'd be interesting to see who it is who's brought up.
Yeah, no, exactly. Agree.
Right, we haven't got long now until Sunday. I don't know how often we will do Line of Duty podcasts. I think we'll come back and do another one when we know a bit more in a few weeks or what have you, and review what we've said. And there have been a few episodes since then, but we've really enjoyed it. I hope you do too. We're not talking about Watford or Everton or Graham Potter. We're normally me talking about Graham Potter, bringing him up and slandering him, but none of that today. We're talking about the Line of Duty, and I still bring Graham Potter up. The man lives rent free in my head.
He does, yeah.
So enjoy Line of Duty Sunday, and feel free to get in touch with any of the three of us, and the three of us love it, and it wrecks our heads as much, I'm sure it does yours. So we'll see you for the next Line of Duty podcast at some point in the future, and until then, thanks to Sam.
Thank you for having me on.
Thanks to Aaron.
Yeah, no worries.
And Mother of God, this starts again.